Hey mamas, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who has helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Shift podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get access to guest experts who will share ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. If I could go back and talk to my newly postpartum self, I would tell her this. Postpartum nutrition is crucial for your milk supply, for your mood, for your energy. And if you truly want to feel your best, you need to focus on fueling your body. Because the truth is, when I had my very first son, even though I was a dietitian, I put my nutrition on the back burner. And what ended up happening was I was depleted. I was stressed out. I had so much on my plate. I was so fixated on making sure that he was taken care of that I let a lot of my needs kind of fall to the wayside, including nourishing my body well. And I just wasn't fueling it well. I wasn't feeling it the way that it needed to be fueled. I mean, yes, I was taking my vitamins. I've always been really good about that. And I was still, eating consistently. I was still eating 3 meals a day. And it wasn't horrible, but there was a lot of room for improvement my very first time around. And if you feel exhausted, worried about your milk supply, if you have a lot of mood swings, a lot of hair loss, all of these types of things, brain fog, then it's not just you. There's actually some things that you can implement with your nutrition to feel better. And here are some nutrition lessons that I wish I would have known sooner so you don't have to learn them the hard way. And the truth is, again, some of these things I had to learn the hard way. Even after being a dietitian for almost a decade at that point, just having my first baby and physically going through so much, I learned a lot through the process. And then I did so much more research on postpartum nutrition after I had him. And there was just so many things that I learned that I truly feel moms need to understand. So something that is really important is understanding how depleted your body is. So birth, whether it's vaginal or whether it's a C-section, it depletes your body of essential nutrients, and breastfeeding also depletes your body of essential nutrients. So when you are pregnant, your body is really fixated on making sure that the baby is getting enough nutrients. And then when you're breastfeeding, your body is focused on giving all the nutrients, the important nutrients to the baby. And so if you're not eating enough for your baby to get those nutrients in your breast milk and for your body to heal and recover, then you can be just setting yourself up for so much failure with exhaustion, mood swings, brain fog, slow healing after birth. And so I knew that breastfeeding and birth depleted the body, but I had no idea to what extent until I had my first son. And I was having a lot of hair loss and my iron. I was super deficient with my iron and just all these different things that I just didn't realize. And I was like, I'm a dietitian. I should be, I should have a better experience than I'm having. But I just realized that there were some things that I really needed to tweak with my nutrition. And a lot of it had to do with vitamins and minerals and making sure that I was hitting my vitamin and mineral needs. So now every night before I go to bed, I joke with my husband. I'm like, all right, I got to go take the pharmacy. And on my nightstand, I have all of my vitamins, my probiotics, my, prenatal vitamins, my DHA, my vitamin D, all the things. And I take 8 pills a night and my husband laughs at me. But I'm like, listen, I know how important these are. And I know how important it is to, eat things like fruits and vegetables that are really high in some of these nutrients and, prioritize things like eggs. I eat eggs every single morning because they have iron and protein and choline. And even my first postpartum experience, I didn't realize how important something like choline was. And so I was eating eggs throughout my pregnancy and postpartum, which is great. And if you're eating enough eggs, you can hit your choline requirements. But I didn't realize that I needed even more choline postpartum. And that's something else that surprised me with my postpartum experience was that your nutrient needs are actually highest postpartum, even than your third trimester. So a lot of moms think when your baby is about to be born and they're bigger, that's when your nutrient needs are the highest, is when you're like 7, 8, 9 months pregnant. But actually your nutrient needs are the highest after birth because your body is going through healing. So something that I did actually know going into it was, whenever I worked in the hospital as a dietitian, and whenever our patients had any type of surgery, so a C-section is a surgery, we always knew like protein and zinc, like all of these things, vitamin C, like all of these things are really important for like wound healing and important for recovery. And so I did know that going into it, but then I kind of assumed, like, oh, if you have vaginal birth, it's not really as traumatic as like a C-section because they're not cutting you open. But the truth is, like, both are traumatic to your body, like whether it's a vaginal birth or a C-section, and both require a lot of protein, especially post birth, to make sure that you're actually healing properly. And if you're deficient in vitamins and minerals, you're actually going to slow down that healing process and your recovery process. And so pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, all of these things really deplete your body. So some of the most common deficiencies that moms face is iron, B12, DHA, so your omega-3 fatty acids, choline, and magnesium. I actually just did a physical. I'm 7 months postpartum now, but I just did a physical, and I was like, please check my vitamin D, please check my iron, please check my B12. Like, let's make sure that all these are good. And mine were perfect. I was so excited because of course I am supplementing with those vitamins and I'm eating a lot of those foods, but you never know. Sometimes we may say like, oh, I am taking 2,000 or 3,000 IUs of vitamin D, and then your vitamin D is still low. You may have to up it. You may have to take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. And so that's why getting blood work is so important postpartum, because if you need to make any adjustments with your supplements or what you're eating or timing of like, oh, I need to eat this with this so that it absorbs better, like, eating healthy fats with certain vitamins actually helps us absorb the vitamins better. Like, there's so many things that are so interesting about postpartum nutrition. And so if you're feeling, if you're having extensive hair loss, if you're feeling really moody all the time, brain fog, you can't focus, you're exhausted even when your baby starts sleeping through the night, the likelihood that you are experiencing some postpartum depletion and deficiencies is super high. And so that is something that we absolutely need to focus on. If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby, so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there. Something else that I actually knew going into this, luckily, going into my first postpartum experience, was the importance of blood sugar balance. So thank goodness that I figured that out way, way, way before I got pregnant with my son. I figured that out probably, I want to say I was like my first 2 years as a dietitian. I really was experimenting a lot with blood sugar balance, and it helped me regulate my weight, my energy levels, my mood, oh my gosh, cravings, all of those things. And so it was really easy for me to keep my blood sugar balance throughout all my pregnancies and postpartum because I had been doing it for so long. But that's also something that a lot of moms don't realize is so important for postpartum recovery. And eating enough for your body during this time is so important. So a lot of moms during this time period are just like, oh, I just need to eat less and move more, eat less, move more. And we need to make sure that we're eating enough. So I'm not here to say like, oh, you just had a baby, go eat 4,000 calories a day and go eat, just all this added sugar. Not at all. But you have to make sure that you are eating enough and meeting your needs, especially when it comes to your protein needs, your calorie needs, your healthy fats, your fiber. Like, we need to make sure that we are not skipping any of these food groups completely or way under eating any of these, because this can slow down our metabolism. It can drop our milk supply. It can wreak havoc on our mood, our energy. We can start having, poor skin and nails and hair loss, excessive hair loss. And so that is why it's so important to understand what our needs are and make sure that we are eating enough, because something that actually before I became a postpartum dietitian, I was just kind of working with women in general. And most of the women I was working with, they were eating not enough intentionally. They were like, oh, I'm just going to eat 12,000 calories a day because if I do that, surely I'll lose weight. So that's like who I was working with for a long time as a dietitian. And then I started working with postpartum moms, and it was like, oh, these moms are actually, they're not necessarily being intentional, like trying to eat 1,200 calories a day or trying to like drastically undereat. They're so busy. They're so like just overwhelmed with how to navigate taking care of a newborn and themselves that they are actually under eating past their needs, and they don't even necessarily realize it. And it's not even necessarily something that's super intentional. It's just that they are really overwhelmed with how to nourish their body well. And so I really love working with that population so much because I love helping moms really understand like where their needs are and how to meet their needs and how to make sure that they're balancing their plate and, getting in enough vitamins and minerals without feeling like they have to spend hours in the kitchen. So, it's never a good idea, of course, to skip meals or snack and just like live off snacks all day. It's really important that we for sure get in our 3 meals a day. And then depending on how newly postpartum you are or how often you're breastfeeding, you may need 2 to 3 snacks a day. Again, this all varies depending on, how often you're breastfeeding, how far, like how long ago you had your baby. And this is not the time to like get caught up in really intense food rules or really intense restriction. Like your body is just trying to replenish these lost nutrients. So this is the time. Something else that really surprised me about postpartum nutrition was hunger and fullness cues. So before I had my first son, I was like super into intuitive eating. And I think that there's some great principles still there for moms. But when we have just given birth, it is really hard for us to tune into our hunger and fullness cues. And for a lot of different hormonal reasons, sleep deprivation, our hunger and fullness hormones can be off. So some moms, when they're postpartum, they're like, I can't even think about food. Food doesn't even sound good. And so if I just tell a mom, like, just listen to your hunger and fullness cues, that's all you need to do. When a mom's postpartum, she may be like, I'm never hungry, And so for those moms, it's really important that they're set up on a very consistent meal and snack schedule. So they're eating even if they're not super hungry. And then vice versa. Sometimes moms are starving postpartum and they're starving when they're breastfeeding. And this can happen for, some reasons are your body needs are higher and your body's screaming at you like, hey, nourish me, feed me. And so instead of just eating whatever is inside or, eating an entire bag of chips, what we want to do is say, okay, my body is clearly signaling to me that it's hungry and I understand why, because I'm making all this milk. And in order to make all this milk, I need more calories and protein, fiber, and fat. And so we want to, honor that, but we also want to make sure that we're eating a balanced plate so that we're actually feeling satisfied and fuller longer. We don't want to just eat something and then be hungry 20 minutes later. So those are just some things that I had to learn the hard way with postpartum nutrition, especially my first postpartum experience. And I will tell you, I implemented all of these things, my second and third postpartum experience, and they were so much easier. My postpartum experiences have been so great. Like I've had amazing energy, even though my babies, my second baby was not a good sleeper at all. He was a horrible sleeper for 15 months. My third baby, she's been pretty good. Like we've had streaks. She's had a lot of sicknesses and, just like she had COVID and, flu, and she has had teething and like all the colds, right? So she's had kind of a rough time. So we're not getting great sleep right now. But even despite that, even despite like us not sleeping well, I've had really great energy. I've been able to stay active during my postpartum experiences. Brain fog is truly minimal. I've had, of course, a little bit of hair loss, but very minimal compared to a lot of moms that I've talked about. Some hair loss can happen with drops in estrogen, but for having excessive hair loss, that's usually nutrient deficiencies along with it. And so I see a lot of moms struggling and I'm like, oh man, like I just wish moms understood that your postpartum experience can be easier if we just truly focus on replenishing lost nutrients, looking at food as fuel for our bodies during this time. It can just make things so much easier. So you can go ahead and click the link in the show notes to join the free workshop where I teach you more about that process. And I will see you in the next episode. Exercise is crucial for our overall mental and physical health, especially during pregnancy and postpartum. Something that has helped me stay really consistent with strength training and yoga at home during nap time is the Expecting and Empowered workout app. I love that I can choose how many weeks pregnant or postpartum I am, and the app tells me exactly what to do. Plus, there's cardio, yoga, and strength training options for new moms and moms to be. You can go ahead and click the link in the show notes to get 7 days free and also save 15% off the annual option when you use promo code Nutrition for Mamas. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the Postpartum Shift podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi over on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.